Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Wednesday. Hi, hello, how the heck are you? Great to be with you. It is hoodie weather. It is a wonderful day, a real fall day in the capital city. Thanks so much for being with us on 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online worldwide at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video stream, which you can find on our Facebook page, WIBW News, and on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. However you're checking out the show today, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll make it worth your while. We're going to have fun the next 3 hours. We are with you until 6 o'clock on this edition of 580 Sports Talk.
Did I hear? Pitbull.
Was that the secret word on Pee-wee's Playhouse?
Yeah.
Did I say the secret word?
Yes.
Mecca lecca hi, Mecca hiney ho. That's Brendan Dworzinski. I'm Dan Lucero. This is the crew you've got today. Spencer Dupuis out today. He'll be back tomorrow. We have got you for the next 3 hours. All kinds of good stuff to get to on today's edition of 580 Sports Talk. Before we get to any of it, though, let's give you the keyword this hour for the ultimate European vacation that we are giving away. You can see the Eiffel Tower in Paris, check out Big Ben in London, take a gondola ride in Venice, and more with our international vacation contest. Listen for the winning words, and you and a +1 could be on the getaway of a lifetime. All you have to do is go to 580WIBW.com, click on the link to enter, top left corner of the page. You'll enter the keyword. This keyword I'm about to give you is only good for the rest of this hour, so until 4 o'clock. And then 4 o'clock, I'll give you a new one. And at 5 o'clock, I'll give you a new one. And you can enter as many keywords as you get. You can enter this hour's keyword, and then next hour, enter the new keyword. This hour's keyword, luxury. 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 I'm thinking of that Saturday Night Live sketch. I forget who the two actresses are in it, where they're talking about luxury items, but they are slurring their words intentionally, and so they call it luxury, and it's making me laugh a little bit. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, luxury is the keyword. Luxury.
You know, after the European in the bathroom joke I made yesterday, I had someone tell me that they were sick of the Europe puns, to which I told them, but I'm not finished yet.
Oh, my God. There, nah, Finland, Scandinavia, yeah, that's European. Yeah.
Got him!
That's 2 days in a row, folks. You see what I have to deal with. Enter the keyword. Again, it's luxury. And we'll get you involved in the sweepstakes to win that ultimate European vacation at 580WIBW.com. On today's program, we're going to get back into the Chiefs. They've had their bye week. We're getting ramped up and amped up for Sunday as the Chiefs head out to Santa Clara, California to take on the San Francisco 49ers in a Super Bowl 58 rematch. Has the rematch lost a little luster given the performance of the 49ers through their first 6 games? We'll talk about it. We'll also discuss the Chiefs as we approach the trade deadline. What if the move that would be best for the Chiefs to make is not one to acquire a wide receiver at the trade deadline? Throw out another couple of possibilities for what the Chiefs could do to strengthen their roster before the trade deadline comes before the Week 9 games. So lots of Chiefs talk on the program today. Look forward to getting into that on the show. Also, lots of K-State stuff on the program today. Of course, it is a Wednesday, so Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com will join us for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. We'll talk to Fitz at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, get his thoughts on their win over Colorado, all his delightful and very not insane interactions with Colorado fans on the internet, and also a look ahead to the trip to Morgantown as K-State gets ready for West Virginia. And some basketball thoughts as well. K-State picked to finish 8th in the preseason Big 12 poll, unranked, but receiving votes in the AP Top 25. We'll get Fitz's thoughts on that as well. We'll cover the gamut of K-State athletics on the Wildcat Wrap-Up, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Bottom of this hour, it's another K-State player profile. This week, a Bishop Miege Stag, KCK native, Taylor Poitier, joined me earlier this week, had a chance to chat with Taylor. And yeah, we talked about winning at Colorado. And yes, we talked about him being a tremendously inspirational figure, overcoming 2 season-ending injuries in a row to become now a steady part of this offensive line. And we got to all of that. But we really got to the important stuff, which is, what does KCK do better, barbecue or tacos? Because that is a very important question. And we needed somebody from KCK to give us the lowdown. And you will hear the answer from Taylor Poitier. We had some fun chatting earlier this week. We're going to bring that to you, our K-State player profile, at the bottom of this hour. We'll also talk about our Big 12 quarterback rankings from the preseason. We didn't rank the quarterbacks so much as we drafted the quarterbacks, but my hypothesis has been variance in quarterback play has been the biggest reason for the variance as far as what we thought a team could be versus what they actually have been through the first half of the college football schedule. So we'll talk about which teams are getting better quarterback play, which teams are getting worse quarterback play, and where KU and K-State fall in that discussion. Particularly K-State is kind of interesting because there were a lot of people. There was one particular national publication, but everybody knows the New York Post, that said Avery Johnson was going to win the Heisman Trophy. He hasn't been that, but has Avery Johnson met expectations this year? We'll talk about that later on in the show. It was the New York Post, right? Or was it the Daily News?
No, it was the Post.
It was Post? Okay. Yeah, thank you.
The Daily News doesn't get attention like that very often.
No, it doesn't. They don't have their tabloids are not as, like, loud.
Yeah, they're slightly less Weekly World News than the New York Post is.
Just a little bit.
Can't wait to read about Bat Boy next week.
by a matter of degrees. Also, all the stuff you've come to know and love from a Wednesday edition of the show. We'll play around to One Gotta Go. We got 2 new stories on what is wrong with you. We'll do our sports headlines, top of the 5 o'clock hour. Lots to get to there as well. Plus, your interaction with the program today is invited and encouraged. If you are watching the show live on video on YouTube, again, our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. You can jump in the live chat, interact with us and with your fellow listeners. You can also text the program. The Top City Metal Supply text line is 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. We already have a texter in today who confirms that I am not the only one who remembers that Saturday Night Live sketch. It was, thank you to the texter from the 785 who confirms that was Vanessa Bayer and Cecily Strong. Cecily Strong in particular, one of the great female cast members in recent memory on SNL. But those sketches are extremely funny to me. Anyhow,
I don't have a great SNL backlog I can recall things from. I watched when I was in 8th grade and then I stopped.
Well, that is when SNL was the funniest. Just like the best sports uniforms were the ones that teams wore when you were 10, the best Saturday Night Live was when you were in 8th grade. That was when it was the funniest.
Yeah. That's true.
And that is a universal experience for everybody, which is why everybody probably doesn't think Saturday Night Live is very funny right now, because you and your peers, I'm guessing, given the demographics of this radio program, are not in the 8th grade anymore. If you are in the 8th grade and you're listening to this show, you just got out of school and you're dialed into 580 Sports Talk, thanks for listening. We appreciate you hanging out.
What's up?
Yeah.
Hey.
How do you do, fellow teens? But no, that is, thank you for that from the Top City Metal Supply text line. I do appreciate that. Anyhow, let's get into some football, shall we? Chiefs 49ers on Sunday, 3:25 kickoff. It's America's Game of the Week on Fox. For a lot of folks, this might be the first time they've been exposed to Tom Brady's broadcast stylings. I know that I have not paid particularly close attention to a game on which Brady has been behind the mic. So that'll be a first for me.
Be careful, because if you talk too much about him, we'll probably have to record this and then send it to the NFL for review to make sure that he's not violating any sort of ownership guidelines.
This is true.
So be careful.
Yeah, you're very correct about that. Obviously, it's a big game. It was one of those where you saw it on the schedule and just kind of assumed it would be prime time. But, the networks get to protect some games, and this was one that Fox really wanted. So here it is, not in prime time. It's America's Game of the Week this coming Sunday. Let me ask this question first by way of discussing this game and the hype coming into it.
In fact, real quick, there's not even like the token Arizona Cardinals late game on Fox. Like Fox only has the one game. Usually you get like 5% of the country gets, like last week it was Panthers Falcons.
Yes.
Only people in the Carolinas and Georgia saw that game live locally. Everyone else got the Lions Cowboys game. This week, they don't even have a map for it. It's just everyone has the Chiefs game.
Yeah, that's right.
Big deal.
Yeah, really big deal. By way of discussing this game, though, I want to start with this question. How good are the 49ers right now? And I don't mean how good are they going to finish? How realistic are their chances of going back to the Super Bowl? Never an easy thing for the Super Bowl loser to do historically. I mean, right now, right this second, the version of the San Francisco 49ers that takes the field for Week 7. How good is this team?
They are good enough right now to win the NFC West. And I think that's where I'm going to peak with it. Like, we're going to talk about the quality of the NFC coming up here in just a moment. I would like you to put a pin in what I just said.
Okay.
That I think they are good enough to win the West. I think they are better than the Seahawks, who I think in turn are better than the Rams and better than the Cardinals. I think there are 3 teams off the top of my head right now. One of them, I have proof of this, that are better than the 49ers. And I think, funny enough, I think Brock Purdy is playing his best football.
Oh, I would agree.
I think we are seeing now the entrance into peak Brock Purdy. And I'm not even saying that is like a facetious thing or damning with faint praise. I think Brock Purdy is playing really, really well. Like, indisputably top 10. If you wanted to give me top 5, I would listen to you say it. Like, he's playing really good football. But they don't have their best weapon. And as it turns out, when 90% of your red zone plays are built either for or around Christian McCaffrey, suddenly not having that guy makes you a lot worse in the red zone. They're not very good in the red zone right now.
They aren't.
Brandon Ayuk took forever to get going. Debo,
he's their third leading receiver right now. Their leading receiver is George Kittle. And their second leading receiver and leader in terms of yards is Juwan Jennings,
who I like a lot for what it's worth.
Yeah,
I really like Juwan Jennings. Debo's playing, but banged up because, of course, he is. He plays physically, and this is just always what happens with him. And their defense, man, like, I'm not willing to say it's anything above, good. Like, they've had great defenses in the recent past. This ain't a great defense. They're banged up front. Their linebackers have the biggest discrepancy between elite in Fred Warner, who's I still think the best in the NFL, and everything. Like, they're giving snaps to Devondre Campbell. And I could have told you last year, you don't want to be giving snaps. He got benched, or at least had his role reduced on that horrendous Green Bay defense a year ago. And they're starting him. Like, it ain't good. You can really attack them between about 7 and 12 yards. They're really weak as long as you get it away from 54. I think they're good, but the more I think about it, from earlier in the week when we did our Super Bowl contenders, that was Monday. It was the first thing we did on Monday.
Yeah.
I think I have reevaluated a little bit. I would still put the 49ers in the discussion. I would put them 7th of 7, though. And especially after the Cooper trade for Buffalo, they're not even on the fringes for me anymore. They're firmly in. San Francisco is the only fringe team in that conversation for me right now. Like, that might even be reputation more than the actual legitimate team right now as is.
So that's kind of what I'm struggling with when it comes to San Francisco. Like, this team is 3-3. And if you take the 1,000-foot view of how they got to 3-3, they have 3 dominant wins and they have 3 one-score losses. So that would suggest that they're better than their record. And I'm certainly comfortable with saying that at a bare minimum, that this is not a 3-3 football team. To extrapolate that out to a full season, I don't think they're an 8-9 or a 9-8 team.
No.
Their losses are to Minnesota, the Rams, and the Cardinals, and they should not have lost to the Rams and the Cardinals. Those were bad losses. Like, it's one thing to say one-score loss. Like, sometimes you lose to a good team by 1 score. Ask anybody who's played the Chiefs.
Yeah, that loss to the Rams pretty much burned up all of the, wow, Matt Stafford, that we're going to get until their receivers come back. Like, that burned up all of that amount of how much can Matt Stafford carry you, because they have not been good since. Arizona can be Arizona is hard because they can be a tough matchup given what Kyler can do with his legs, which again, bad linebacker play is not good when you have to face a guy who is as mobile as Kyler Murray is and is as good of a runner as that.
Yeah.
Minnesota's just good. That defense is just really dang good. So,
and their wins are against the Jets, who they trucked on Monday Night Football in the season opener.
Yeah.
The Patriots, who stink. Then they went on the road last Thursday and beat up Seattle. They got the help of 3 turnovers, but they were very clearly the better team in that game. So,
yeah, like right now, I would say they are good, and there are 6 teams that without thinking I would put ahead of them right now.
Are they better than they were last year in February when they played the Chiefs in Super Bowl 58?
No.
I would say no without
measurably worse. I would
say no without any hesitation. Yeah. Like I don't think they're as good up front, either side of the ball. They didn't have Hufanga last year. They're not going to have him again for this game. Obviously, they don't have Christian McCaffrey. And while they've made it shake because of their scheme with guys like Jordan Mason and Isaac Orendo, those guys aren't Christian McCaffrey. Those guys don't keep Steve Spagnuolo or other defensive coordinators up at night. When it's not McCaffrey, you're more worried about the scheme than you are the player.
Yes.
When you have to worry about the scheme and you have to worry about the player, that's a whole different ball of wax. Are the Chiefs better than they were last February when they met in the Super Bowl? I'm going to say you need to turn your mic on so the people can hear what you just said.
Yeah. You can hear my keyboard really strongly on my mic in this room. Right. So I have to turn it off.
No, I get it.
So my apologies. If the Chiefs still had Rashee Rice, I would say yes.
Okay.
But they don't have Rashee Rice, so I don't think I can say yes right now. I think there are certain...
I think it's closer for them than it is for San Francisco.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Agree 100%. I think there are parts of the Chiefs that are playing better. I think the run game is more effective than it was, and it was fairly effective at the end of last year, but I think the run game is more effective this year, and I think that's directly correlated to the offensive line being better. This line, and I understand the left tackle problem, this line is playing incredible football. In fact, and I looked this up last week, Spencer and I were talking about it, but after this weekend's games, the Chiefs are still, according to ESPN's pass rush and pass block win rates, the Chiefs are currently second in the NFL in pass block win rate and first in the NFL in run block win rate. They are dominating up front, specifically on the interior. And I think that is a clear improvement for the Chiefs. Now, I think there are other areas where the Chiefs could still be better. I think the pass rush could use a little more juice. We'll get to that. I think, again, the wide receiver core has me worried without Rashee Rice for the long term. But I agree with you. If there's any drop-off, I think it's a trace amount of drop-off. And I think, yeah, they're a better team. How do I want to say this? I think the Chiefs are a little bit worse than the Super Bowl team last year, but are still, there's a bigger gap between them and the 49ers than there was in the Super Bowl, if that makes sense.
One thing that has helped them close the gap a little bit for the Chiefs, and we'll dive into this, I think, over the next couple of days, because I think it's worth exploring. Jalen Watson is playing like one of the best cornerbacks in football.
Yes, he is.
And that has made the Chiefs not really feel the absence of the 2023 edition of L'Jarius Sneed in a way that I think we predicted they would.
By the way, you know who's not having a very good year?
L'Jarius Sneed.
He deserves all the credit in the world for how he played last year. He was awesome. He should have been an All-Pro.
Yes.
Without question,
yes.
He should have been an All-Pro. But go listen to a Nashville sports talk show. Go ask the Titans fans in your life. I'm sure you have an imaginary friend somewhere who's a Titans fan. They're not thrilled. The whole team stinks, but L'Jarius Sneed talks as much as he always has and doesn't really back it up right now. He has less help than he did with the Chiefs, obviously. Worse coaching, obviously. But for the time being, that looks like a very shrewd move by Brett Veach. And I think it was the right move at the time because you're just worried about how his body is going to hold up. And the way Watson is playing, that for nothing, he was a 7th-round pick a few years ago. That looks like a great business move, and for now, a great football move.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a big part of the reason why it feels like that Chiefs defense really hasn't missed a beat. The other part of this matchup, too, that I think is worth pointing at is that the 49ers are going to take this one personally because they did lose in the Super Bowl last year. They're at home. This is their chance to make a statement. But it's also against an Andy Reid team coming off a bye. And we have spoken to that for many years now, how well historically Andy Reid's teams perform with the advantage of an extra week to prepare. Now, the Niners get an extra week and a half because they played last Thursday. But I still think that's a factor that is in Kansas City's favor going into this matchup, knowing that Andy Reid's team is coming off of a bye. We'll dive more into this matchup as we get closer to it. Obviously, Mitch Holtis will join us tomorrow for some more thoughts on the Super Bowl 58 rematch. We'll have our full game preview on Friday with our predictions and keys to the game, and Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider, and all of that. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, speaking of the NFC, who are the best teams in the NFC? I think we know who the top two are, or maybe we don't. But who are the best teams over in that other conference? We'll discuss next as we're just getting started in this edition of 580 Sports Talk. .331 on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting started on the program today. Had a text in from the Top City Metal Supply text line. Question from the 913 about Charles Omenihu. Do we get him back this week? No, he does not come back this week, but we have heard from him. He was doing some tweeting today. He had some free time. So he took to Twitter. He's at Charles S_94. So he had this to say earlier today. I'm coming back to get what I deserve. The biggest expletive, anything else ain't for me. Done speaking till I'm back. Been too humble. Folks forgot WTF I did with less games than your favorite player. I would expect he's back relatively soon-ish, and sounds like he's very motivated.
Yeah, sure does sound like it.
So, yeah, he had a lot to say. He said he did post a picture earlier that said soon. So, we'll see. We're coming up on – he got hurt in the playoffs. He got hurt in January. So, we're coming up on about 10 months since the ACL injury, and that would be about the target, I think, anymore. Used to be a year-long injury. Now you can get back about 10, 11 months. So we'll talk about Charles Omenihu a little bit later on. We have some thoughts on what if the Chiefs make a trade and it's not for a wide receiver. We'll discuss that a little bit later on. Also coming up later this hour, our K-State player profile this week. Kansas City, Kansas native, former Bishop Miege Stag, starting offensive lineman Taylor Poitier is our K-State player profile this week. But first, a real quick thought on the NFC, because, of course, 49ers are the reigning conference champions. That's who the Chiefs play next Sunday. Do we accept that San Francisco and Detroit are the two best teams in the conference? And again, I don't mean right now. I mean, when we talked earlier about the 49ers, how good are they? I did mean right now. But I think, broadly speaking, as far as chances to go win a championship, is it still San Francisco, Detroit, 1-2 in some order?
No.
Okay.
No. I think three members of the NFC Norris division are all better than San Francisco right now. I mean, Minnesota beat them head-to-head.
They did.
I
can't do it. I can't do it with Minnesota. Sam Darnold's their quarterback. I cannot do it.
I understand, and quiet as it's kept, because other teams have been far bigger disasters, and Minnesota was off this week, so they weren't in the spotlight. Darnold had his worst game right before the bye. I mean, he was, 14 of 31 passing?
He's starting to trend in the wrong direction. It's starting to look like a Flowers for Algernon situation with him.
And that is going to be a thing that the coaching staff in Minnesota needs to work on. I think Kevin O'Connell, even before the start of the season, really good coach. I'm a big fan of his work.
I do like him. I like Brian Flores, but I also think that you can win in September, October, November with scheme. When you get to January, you need dudes.
I think Sam Darnold has the physical ability. I think he has the mental makeup to be a good quarterback. I do think he does remember, I think it was yesterday when I was describing Mahomes, and I was talking about how I don't think he makes bad decisions. I think he pushes the boundaries of what he can do. And sometimes he finds out, okay, I can't do this. I threw a pick, but then he doesn't in the playoffs, generally speaking. I think Sam Darnold does the same thing, but Sam Darnold's not as good as Patrick Mahomes.
So he has more limitations.
So there's more limitations. Yeah, I get it. I understand why this has worked. I understand why there is belief in him. I also understand why nobody really believes in Minnesota long-term because of who their quarterback is. But for now, I think they are holistically playing better than the 49ers are. I would still posit the Lions are the best team in the NFC, which feels gross for me to say, but I do believe that to be true. Losing Aiden Hutchinson is hard. That is a big concern. Yeah. And I think, you can tell me if I'm overly biased here. I think Green Bay is better than San Francisco right now too. I have concerns about how good that defense will be in December if they're not taking the ball away 2+ times every single game. But I think the offense is fine. I think that's one of the 3 or 4 best offenses in the league when it's everybody healthy all together. I think all 3 of those teams are better than the Niners right this second. If you wanted to argue Minnesota, fair enough. I could listen to that.
So your 4 best teams in the conference are Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, San Francisco?
Yeah. And I would put the 3 NFC North teams in any order. I could hear an argument for any order with the 3 of them, but I'd put San Francisco 4th.
See, I still think San Francisco, again, you got a lot of dudes. And even if they don't get, they need to get Christian McCaffrey back. Mm-hmm. But even if they don't get him back, I think with Purdy playing really good football, with the playmakers they have at wide receiver and tight end, they still have stars at all 3 levels of their defense. You have Nick Bosa, you have Fred Warner, you have Charvarius Ward. So you got stars on all 3 levels of your defense, and eventually they'll get Hufanga back. I still think that's a real championship threat, more so than I would say Green Bay. I'd say Green Bay is my 3rd best team in the conference. I had a lot of trouble who's fourth. It might be Washington, honestly.
Over Minnesota?
Yeah.
Where do you think you would put the Vikings? Just out of curiosity. I'm not trying to pine for Minnesota. I'm just curious. Because
the record doesn't lie, but again, like I need to trust the quarterback. If you're going to go, if I'm going to say this team is going to go win a championship, like this team, if I'm ranking the teams by how likely are you to win a championship, I cannot rank a team with Sam Darnold over a team even with the guy like the way Jaden Daniels has played right now.
I totally understand where you're coming from. I would put Minnesota ahead of Washington, for example. Like, Daniels has been great. That offense has been way better than I expected it to be. I'm pretty sure you could run for 125 against them, like right now, wearing a hoodie and gym shoes. Like, that defense is bad and like bad. Whereas Minnesota has a quarterback who has been getting by, the best receiver in the NFL, maybe the best number 2 receiver in the NFL, the way Addison's playing. They're going to get Hawkinson back here in the maybe immediate future, and their defense is playing out of their minds. So I'm still going to give them credit until Darnold implodes, but you're 100% right. That could happen anytime. It really could.
Yeah, and when
I hate defending these guys. Ew.
I hate putting you in the position where you had to do it. I feel bad as a friend that I made you do that. But we're going to take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, it's time for our K-State player profile of the week. Taylor Poitier joined me earlier this week. We talked about coming back from adversity. We talked about beating the Buffs. We talked about tacos. You're going to want to hear the conversation. It's next on 580 Sports Talk. Every week on 580 Sports Talk, or at least every week while the season is running, we get a chance to speak with a member of the Kansas State football team and profile them a little bit, not just talk about the ongoing season, the most recent games, but also to get a sense of who these players are. It's been a really fun thing we've gotten to do throughout this year, our K-State player profiles. This week, we are profiling the senior starting guard, Taylor Poitier from Kansas City, Kansas, Bishop Miege High School. promising prospect that had his career nearly derailed by injuries, season-ending injuries that cost him both 2021 and 2022. But he has returned, played in every game last year. He's played in every game this year, and he's a stalwart member of that K-State front five. I had a chance to catch up with him earlier this week, talk about all kinds of stuff. So here's our conversation, our K-State player profile. This week's subject, Taylor Poitier on 580 Sports Talk. This week's K-State player profile on 580 Sports Talk brings us to a former Bishop Miege Stag and current senior member of the K-State offensive line. Taylor Poitier joins us here on 580 Sports Talk. And Taylor, I want to go back to Saturday night in Boulder. You fall behind late in the game. You know you have to put together a touchdown drive if you're going to be able to beat Colorado. What was the level of confidence in that offensive huddle going into that final drive?
It was just real confident. Confidence never leaves that huddle. As we're going forth from that drive, we're just like, we got to go down there and score. That's what we needed to end the game. That's what Coach Will was talking about. I was like, we need a touchdown, go down there. So we all put it in the mindset that we're going to go down there and score if we have the ball in our hands. So, and that's what we did. We're just never losing the confidence between one another, and it stood out for us. So, yeah.
What is Avery Johnson like in the huddle in those moments? He gets a lot of credit for his maturity and his toughness, and obviously through the game-winning touchdown pass on that drive. But what have you noticed being around him, having him lead the huddle this year? What is he like in those moments?
He's really calm, cool, and collective, honestly. Just going throughout the season, how much he's matured and just how much of his confidence he's growing. He's a calm, cool, collected kind of guy. He never doesn't really phases him when really need him to step up. So, he's always in an opportunity for us and then for himself to, just stand out. So.
It was a big night on the ground for you as a team in that game. How much fun are those games for offensive linemen when you're winning your battles at the line of scrimmage and your running backs, particularly DJ Giddens, are making the plays that they're making and piling up the yards that they're piling up? How much fun are those games, and how satisfying is it to win a game where you feel like you played a big role and your offensive line played a big role in the success of the offense?
It's really satisfying, honestly. Like how you said, like having DJ back there, having Dylan back there, two elite running backs in the Big 12, being able to, run for those guys or block for those guys and, making holes that it can, go through and, let them make a move that can, make an explosive play. But, we all love it, credits to them, but we work hard too. So we kind of share the credit when it comes to that. But, it's especially that game, too, is just being able to run the ball how we did. And, they didn't really give up that many yards prior to that game. So being able to do that and then, doing it exceedingly well.
Taylor Poitier is our guest. He is our K-State player profile this week on 580 Sports Talk. Taylor, obviously, you've been through some ups and downs in your Kansas State career and dealt with some injuries that cost you time in 2021 and 2022. You've persevered through those things. You're back on the field. You're a valued member of this offensive line as a veteran player. What did you learn maybe about yourself in the process of coming back from the injuries that you've suffered and being able to get back on the field, get your body right, get mentally right to be on the field and continue to be a leader on the team? What did that maybe reveal to you about yourself and your own ability to overcome?
Morally, I just realized how mentally strong I am. Going through those years, those back-to-back years of, just getting hurt, I just thought everything, was coming down. Like all the pressure felt heavy, like how it would come back, when I would come back, if I would be able to perform how I did before I got hurt. Especially that second one. I was just like, at that point, I thought it was kind of over. But I just kept my head in it. I kept my faith in it, and I just kept going. So I just, when everything's going wrong, I know that I'm mentally and physically strong, and I can persevere through anything that's in my way. So,
Who were the people in your life that you really leaned on for some strength in some of the tougher times during your recovery?
I would say my mom, my grandpa, my friends. My friends are a big factor for me because I tell all my friends this. I consider my friends as my family because those relationships that I built with them are everlasting, and just the talks I would have with some of my friends that will help me get through it really helped me, just like making me smile or just anything, like just letting me talk to them whenever I need to. So that's what really got me, through those hard situations.
We're talking to Kansas State senior offensive lineman Taylor Poitier. Taylor, I know that the offensive line group is very much like a family unit. We had a chance to talk to Hadley Panzer last week for our player profile, and I want to get the feeling from you for this group and see if you have some of the same answers as Hadley Panzer when it comes to the offensive line group. So let me ask you a couple of questions about the group as a whole. Who's the smartest guy in that O-line room?
I would have to say either Andrew Linegang or Sam Heck.
Okay.
Two pretty smart guys.
He said Linegang was one of them for sure, and was studying some stuff that maybe he couldn't wrap his brain around so easily.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's crazy. Some type of science, engineering, something like that. Very smart.
How about the funniest guy in the O-line room? Who's the funniest guy?
Funniest? Let's see here.
Hadley said himself, for the record.
Himself? Shoot, I'll say myself then. I didn't want to give it to me, but shoot, I'll say myself.
There you go. How about who is the one person in the offensive line room that you never want to have control of the aux cord and the music under any circumstances?
Oh, Carver was.
What's Carver like?
Yeah, for sure.
What's he listening to?
I couldn't even tell you, like, type of things he listens to. It's just like he's from Durango, Colorado, so he's kind of in the middle of nowhere, so they kind of listen to a whole bunch of nothing, honestly. So, no disrespect to people in Durango, but yeah, I don't know, Carver's kind of like, his music taste, not the best.
I'm a Coloradan myself. I'm a native of the Denver area, and yes, I can confirm that Durango is not what people think about when they think about Colorado. That is 100% true. Taylor Poitier is our guest here, our K-State player profile. A few more questions for Taylor. You are a former Bishop Miege Stag. You're from the Kansas side of the city of Kansas City, and of course, when people think about Kansas City, they think about barbecue, but when people think about KCK, they got the taco tour too. So tell me this, if you're going back, what does KCK do best? Is it barbecue or is it tacos?
That's a really good question. I always tell people, that's crazy. That's a crazy question. I always tell people whenever they come back, I always tell people to come back and hang out with me. And I would take them to a Mexican spot that's close to my house. It's called Bonitos. I've been there since I was probably in grade school. It's kind of like a convenience store and also like a little restaurant in the same place. So, oh my gosh, it's top tier. I can eat there all day. So I mean, barbecue is also just a big platform in the KC area. But I mean, I feel like we just have both. Like, I don't know, honestly. Every time I bring people back to my place, they say it's like, Mexico City. I'm like, shoot, like we got it all over here. We got the barbecue, we got the Mexican food, like all of it. So I don't know. I would just say for right now, I would say Mexican food because we got it all too. So
the best places are the places that they're selling you groceries and then out the back they got the tacos. Like
I'm telling you, that's what I'm trying to tell people. I'm like, you're gonna have the best food. I don't care if they're selling groceries, or you're gonna have the best food when you come in here.
No doubt. Now, as far as barbecue, where do you land on Slaps? Because that's my wife's favorite barbecue in the whole Kansas City area, Kansas and Missouri.
Slaps? I've had it once. So it's kind of hard for me to decide, like, if that's the best thing right now. But other people say that Slaps is probably their favorite barbecue to have. I'm more of a Gates kind of guy.
Oh, sure.
I just like their sauce a little bit. I like their Their baked beans are to die for sure.
Yeah.
Their sauces, all that. Like, I'm a big Gates guy, but Slabs is pretty good too.
So if we leave from nothing else, but from this K-State player profile with Taylor Poitier, it is Bonitos in Kansas City, Kansas is the place to be.
Try it out.
I'm gonna write it down the next time I'm on that side of the Kansas City line, on that side of the river. That's where I'm going. Taylor Poitier, senior offensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats. Congrats on the win on Saturday, and all the best as you head to Morgantown this week.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Enjoyed that combo with Taylor Poitier. Now I have a new place to go try next time I'm in KCK. We're going to take a quick break, come back, play a round of One Gotta Go to wrap up the 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. We have a endorsement of Bonitos from the Top City Mail Supply text line.
Oh.
From the 913. Says, it's great. It ain't no Taco Bell. And listen, I love Mexican food in all shapes and sizes. I truly do. I will throw down on some Taco Bell, but no, I am always eager to try the authentic Mexican food places. And if they are, I don't even care what food it is. If they're running it out of the back of the grocery store or the back of the convenience store, it goes crazy. Guaranteed.
That's true.
Guaranteed, no matter where you go. Speaking of go, it's time to play One Gotta Go. And speaking of barbecue, side dishes, barbecue sides. You've got bean-based, so baked beans. You've got potato-based, maybe potato salad or cheesy potatoes, mac and cheese, and corn-based sides. Maybe a cheesy corn, maybe just corn on the cob. One Gotta Go, barbecue sides.
Can you give, all right, so
corn-based, potato-based, bean-based, and then mac and cheese.
Okay, yeah. I'm not eating beans.
No beans.
No beans.
Wow.
I do not put beans in front of me. There are certain. My wife puts beans in her chili. We brought that up another day.
Yesterday.
It's good. Her chili is very good. There are some things, beans are in it. Fine, I'll live with it. Generally speaking, though, if I have a choice, don't put beans in front of me.
Oh man, it's baked beans.
I know you and Taylor, same thing. No. I'm not going to do it.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. See, I hate getting rid of any of those. As Vance puts it in the YouTube live chat, that's like picking your favorite child. Yeah, like it's very hard to get rid of one of those. I would probably get rid of, man, like mac and cheese has more variation. Some mac and cheese can be really boring. Some mac and cheese can just go bananas. So with more variation on the mac and cheese, I would say that one's got to go because I feel pretty good about the quality I'm going to get on the potato and corn and bean side.
Matt Brown.
It depends on where. Like Q39 mac and cheese, like I could eat it by the dump truck full.
Yeah. Matt Brown of the Extra Points newsletter, friend of the program, he took a trip for some reporting to Provo and Salt Lake City within the last couple weeks to see a game. And he's Mormon, so he, doing some cultural stuff too. Stopped at a place called Bam Bam's Barbecue, which apparently is super well reviewed in Provo. And his review of the place officially was, Mormon friends, please don't get mad at me, but you guys have clearly never been to Kansas City, Texas, or Memphis. And one of the things he ordered, it was mac and cheese with crumbled goldfish crackers on top.
No. Violation.
Yes,
Jail.
he was like, guys, I don't think you understand that this is just church food. Like, this sounds like it's church nursery food, not real barbecue.
I'm going to file Utah barbecue next to St. Louis-style pizza as things that should simply not exist.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
We're talking Chiefs. We're doing What Is Wrong With You. Tim Fitzgerald's going to join us bottom of the next hour. The 4 o'clock hour is next on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 2 on this hump day. Two-man game this afternoon. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski with you. Spencer Dupuis will be back tomorrow. So glad you're with us on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream. We're up on YouTube. The channel is 580 Sports Talk. We're also on Facebook. You can watch us on our Facebook page, WIBW News. However you are consuming the program today, thanks for being a part. We appreciate having you along. The Top City Metal Supply text line is open, 785-272-9429. You can also interact with us in the YouTube live chat, interact with us and your fellow listeners. And you can send us comments on Facebook. We see those as well. As you can comment while you're watching on Facebook at WIBW News. We created a monster. The live chat is talking about barbecue, and that's a very difficult thing for me to have to go through, for us, frankly, to have to go through while we are hungry.
Yeah, it's not fair.
This is about the time of day where I start to get that hunger hit after lunch. And we're still 2 hours out of like being done for the day. And the chat is talking about barbecue, favorite barbecue places. And look, I encourage the behavior.
You're a Joe's guy, right?
I am a Joe's guy.
Yeah, Joe's is my number one.
I am forever in debt to ESPN for catering Game 3 of the American League Division Series with Joe's Kansas City at the Kauffman Stadium press box.
I love Joe's. Z-Man, the cowboy plate. Oh, my God. Incredible.
I think their ribs go crazy.
Their ribs are tremendous.
I think their ribs are the best.
I love their ribs. I like their brisket plenty. I love the pulled pork there. It's all very, very good. My number 2 is Bryant's, though. I feel like Bryant's has kind of fallen like out of the public consciousness. I don't feel like anyone ever talks about it anymore. I love Arthur Bryant's.
No, Arthur Bryant's is very good. I love the experience of Arthur Bryant's.
Yes, agreed.
That is the number one, I think, experience is going to the original Arthur Bryant's down there near 18th and Vine.
Yep.
And standing in line and getting your food. Yeah, the experience is second to none at Arthur Bryant's. You stand in line at other places too. You get the gas station, the original Joe's, or you can get yelled at gates, and that's its own experience. But I like Arthur. There are no losers here, really.
No.
I've never been to a barbecue place in the Kansas City area and been like, man, I really regret doing that.
My wife's favorite is Jack Stack, and I like Jack Stack too. I'd put them third. I like Jack Stack quite a bit. I will say, we've only been to Q39 once. I had it catered somewhere once as well.
Uh-huh.
We did not have the best experience eating in person. I have never before eaten wet pork. That was new. The sides were delicious.
Yeah, Q39 sides are like the mac and cheese is off.
Yes, it was very, very good.
There's a reason it's Andy Reid's favorite.
Yes. No,
Andy Reid is very particular about his mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Like there are stories out there. He's got his own recipe, like the whole thing.
His seven cheese recipe, but 5 is good enough.
Yes, he's very specific about that. So I like Jack Stack. My wife and I went there last time we were in Kansas City. We went there because it was Sunday and Joe's was closed. So we went to Jack Stack instead. Had a great meal. It was so that was my birthday weekend. It was my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife is big into asking if you get free stuff for your birthday. That is a Dieter family trait that has been passed on to her. Like, hey, do we get anything? It's his birthday. They had this carrot cake cheesecake. Was unbelievable. I'm not a huge carrot cake guy, but unbelievable piece of cheesecake.
Mm-hmm.
As good as I've ever had. So that was my last Jack Stack experience.
We, on the 4th of July a few years ago, we went to Kansas City. We did not know that Joe's was going to be closed on the 4th of July. They were. So we're driving around. Everywhere was freaking closed on the 4th of July when we were in Kansas City one year. We found this place. I wish I could remember the name of it. It was on the side of one of the state highways in Olathe. It's just family owned, not a chain of any sort, not a whole lot of big signage or anything. Incredible. Like, I think we ate at the bar, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. Incredible barbecue. The only place that was open. I wish I knew the name. I'd give them a shout out.
I need to go to LC's. That's the one that people tell me I need to hit in Kansas City. Yep. I always forget about it. And then, so I got turned around coming out of Kauffman Stadium after game 4 because both roads I needed to take to get to the interstate were closed. They were blocked off by police. I couldn't go north on Blue Ridge Parkway. I couldn't go on Raytown Road and get to 435. So I got really turned around. And I got into a neighborhood that I didn't really love being in, that I was unfamiliar with at, past 10 o'clock at night. But anyway, I started following directions, and it spit me out on Martin Luther King Jr., and it spit me out right next to LC's. I'm like, oh, that's where LC's is. I need to go. Next time I'm in KC, that's where I need to go.
It's always good to discover a place that way.
Yes.
Oh, that's where I am.
Bump into it. Bill in the YouTube live comments, we welcome Bill to the conversation, asked, what is a good barbecue in Topeka? So, we are Hog Wild fans. Hog Wild catered my wedding. I think Hog Wild is very good.
I really like Hog Wild.
Iron Rail does excellent barbecue on their menu. I think Blind Tiger does very good barbecue on their menu.
I'll say the good word about Herman's.
Yes,
I'm a big Herman's fan.
Very good barbecue. There is a new place that just opened out on 21st, J-Rock Smokehouse. I have not been yet, but I've heard really good things. They're open, I think, Wednesday through Saturday, and I have heard really good things about that. I've heard good things about Gnawlings, which is downtown.
Yes. Now, is this the same J-Rock that is frequently featured on Kendrick Lamar tracks?
I would have to ask.
Okay.
I would have to do some research. I don't know if he's the one that did the incredible guest verse on Money Trees, but we'll find out. We'll go on a fact-finding mission when I get out there. So anyway, that is the best we can answer that question, Bill. There are plenty of good barbecue options, we believe, in the capital city. Maybe you'd like to eat Italian or French or English food. I don't know why you'd want to eat English food. But anyway, that's just
Imagine a British man trying to make barbecue.
Anybody from like Liverpool or Manchester who came to Kansas City and had one bite at Joe's Kansas City, they would immediately pass out.
Yes. They would love it, though.
Yes.
They would say good things, but they probably wouldn't eat for 3 days.
Yeah, they would love it, but they'd be like, what are these? Spices? Herbs? We don't do that in England. Anyhow. That is my attempt at an awkward segue to giving you a keyword for the Ultimate Europe Getaway that we are giving away at our website, 580wibw.com. A keyword every hour through the end of this week. So we'll keep doing this until Friday of this week. We got a keyword. You go to 580wibw.com. You click on the link. It's top left of the page. Enter to win. And you enter the keyword and you enter your information. You're registered to win a 10-day trip to Europe for one lucky winner plus a +1. This hour's keyword, guide. 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 That is your keyword. Guide. Guide. Let's get into some sports, shall we? Later on this hour, we'll do What Is Wrong With You, which is not really sports, but we'll also talk to Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com. It's our Wildcat Wrap-Up. We do it every Wednesday on the program. Fitz will join us, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Lots of K-State stuff to get to, so we'll leave some ample time to chop it up with Fitz. But we were talking yesterday, the three of us, about the big trades that were made in the NFL yesterday with both the Jets and Bills acquiring star wide receivers. The Jets, of course, went out and got Devontae Adams, reuniting him with Aaron Rodgers. The Bills went and acquired Amari Cooper, rescuing him from the hell of playing with the nasty man in Cleveland and bringing him to Buffalo to play with Josh Allen. Such a glow up, I cannot even comprehend. That is an all-time glow up for a wide receiver in 2024. There has been lots of speculation about the Chiefs adding a wide receiver. There have been lots of jokes about the Chiefs just adding a wide receiver they're already familiar with. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a free agent now, after all. They could definitely go get Demarcus Robinson. I'm sure the Rams would give him away for a conditional 7th in all likelihood.
You know what's actually wild about Demarcus Robinson? He is, I believe, 3rd in the NFL in percentage of catches that go for a touchdown or a first down. Demarcus Robinson. What the hell?
I never thought Demarcus Robinson was a bad player. I just felt like he was a frustrating player. Mostly because of how he carried the football.
I mean, I never thought he was good.
No, I want to be clear. I never thought, oh, man, Demarcus Robinson, what a star. Wow, teams have to account for Demarcus Robinson. But I never felt like, oh, man, that guy stinks. Get him off the field. I don't think he ever entered the Tony zone.
No.
The Sky Moore zone.
No, he was like he was a bit player. Like he was, I'm trying to think of a comparison. Like he was Silent Bob in the original Clerks.
Like an Albert Wilson or a Chris Conley. Like, yeah, okay, this guy has caught some passes.
Might have been better than Chris Conley.
I think he's better than Chris Conley.
Yeah, but no, he's with Cup and Nakua out. He's been their best offensive player next to Stafford. It's wild.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that probably leans into your point, though. Like, if you could go get him, that probably would help right away.
Sure. Yeah. Like, and I think you wouldn't have to give up much more than a conditional third-day pick to go get him. But what if that's not the best possible move for the Chiefs to make to add to their team? We talked a lot before the season started about the defensive line, and maybe they didn't have enough guys. Maybe they need to add there. And then they did. They went out and traded for Cam Thomas, who is more myth than man when it comes to like taking the field and playing and making any kind of real impact. So that has not been an impact addition. Charles Omenihu, who we brought up earlier on the show, is going to be an impactful addition. And maybe that's how the Chiefs look at the defensive line group. Maybe that's how they always have looked at the defensive line group is, well, maybe the guys we're starting the season with, maybe it's not as deep. Maybe it's not as impactful as it ought to be. But we're adding Omenihu at some point. That's going to be like our trade deadline acquisition. But even with Omenihu's return, at least according to him, imminent, could the Chiefs maybe use one more guy who can get after the quarterback? I was digging into the numbers. The Chiefs as a team are fourth in the league in total pressures. They're behind only Minnesota, Seattle, and Denver, which, man, what a list of teams. If you'd said those are going to be the top three teams in quarterback pressures, I mean, Seattle, you could have bought because it's Mike McDonald, and Minnesota, you would have said, okay, yeah, Brian Flores likes to blitz every play. Denver's the big surprise there because they don't have an elite pass rusher. Zach Allen is playing like one.
Vance Joseph is really good at his job. He was very bad as a head coach in Denver, but that dude knows defense, man. He's getting a lot out of not very much.
Some guys, we use the phrase all the time about water finding its level, and Vance Joseph is quite a good assistant coach.
It's the Peter principle.
Yeah. So the Chiefs are fourth in pressures, and they're tied with the Vikings for the best pressures per drop back number in the league. They get pressure on 32.6% of dropbacks. Some form of pressure. That's a sack. That's a hurry, a QB hit, something like that. They get them on a per drop back basis more than any other team in the league except for Minnesota. And they're tied for first. With that being said, where do you think the Chiefs rank in total sacks?
23rd.
Lower. They are tied for 26th. They have 9 sacks in 5 games. They are tied with the Rams, Titans, and Dolphins. Only the Bengals, Panthers, and Falcons have fewer sacks than the Chiefs. Like, that's the company the Chiefs are keeping in terms of raw sack numbers.
See, and I'm a believer in the pressures over sacks mindset of building a roster.
So that was my question, essentially, to you, is like, do you look at those numbers and think that's a flaw in this team? Like, they're not good enough at getting sacks? Or do you look at that as a trend line that eventually the sack numbers are going to follow the pressure numbers and more closely mirror the pressure numbers after a while?
So I do believe that if you're building a roster, if it is March and you're waiting for the draft and you're waiting for free agency and you're trying to build a team, what do you want your pass rush to look like? I want to go after high pressure guys because pressures are more repeatable than sacks are, because sacks so much depend on the schedule, right? Like the Chiefs theoretically probably could have 2 or 3 more on the ledger this year, but they played Lamar Jackson week 1, who is almost impossible to sack. So there's a little more volatility with that particular stat. That being said, and that preference being stated, I think you have to add context of who the teams are, who the coaches are, who the personnel are. I think that pressure stat for the Chiefs is a Steve Spagnuolo stat. And I think the Chiefs definitely could use another guy who can finish some of those plays. I think Karlaftis can finish plays because of how high his motor is, and we know he's a good player. You're never worried about Chris Jones. Dana has, we know what Mike Dana is. He's a nice player at this point. Other than that, though, like I like Turk Wharton getting into the backfield. I like Malik Herring. I'm hopeful for Felix that he can do more. We know the Chiefs are going to blitz and use exotic blitz looks all the time. I think that the Chiefs, though, would benefit from bringing in somebody else who maybe is a little more refined, somebody who is more of a sack artist, not just a guy who can get into the backfield. I think a lot about and sorry for using another Packers comparison, but Devontae Wyatt was a first-round pick of the Packers a couple years back, and he has been really good at rushing the passer. And I very specifically say rushing the passer because the dude cannot tackle to save his life. He is constantly running at the quarterback, and that's kind of where the effectiveness ends. And it's, well, why is he going to break through? Well, I don't know, when he learns to tackle, I guess. Like, I don't know. So that's an effective player to a degree. That's an effective player for that particular role if you've got other guys who can clean up, and Green Bay does. But if you're the Chiefs, I think you could probably use somebody more who maybe isn't going to be the always living in the backfield but overrunning the quarterback guy. I don't know who that would be, so I can't give you a firm answer of what that player, what player could be acquired. But I do think this team could use someone else who can actually finish a play, because I trust, and that's why I say this is a Steve Spagnuolo stat, I trust that Spags is going to draw something up to get after the quarterback. I trust that this system, this scheme is going to end more so than for most other teams with at least one guy, if not multiple, in the quarterback's face by the time the ball is being released or the play ends with that quarterback on his back. I trust the system for that. So I think you need to build on that with guys who once they get there, they're going to make a play happen as opposed to it happening around them.
And the Chiefs have a knack for delivering pressure when it matters most. Like, think of how many over the last handful of years important drives have ended because the Chiefs got a sack on third down, or because they hit the quarterback and blew up a play on third down. They forced a throwaway on third down. They seem to have a knack for that. As to your point about a specialist, somebody who finishes those plays, maybe a man who is that guy. I mean, he had 7 sacks in 11 games last year. Like, maybe that's the guy that this unit is really missing to finish more of those pressures, those 4, 5, and 6-man pressures. I think that's certainly a possibility. But like I said, I was looking at the other numbers as far as teams who lead the league in pressures. The teams that have more pressures than the Chiefs, the Vikings have 20 sacks in 5 games. The Seahawks have 17 in 6. The Broncos have 22 sacks in 6 games. And yes, those stats are, adjacent to or dependent on the kind of quarterback you play. Like, you don't sack Lamar Jackson. And Chiefs really didn't sack Lamar Jackson. And the Vikings, Seahawks, and Broncos have not had to deal with the pain in the neck that Lamar Jackson is to go and sack. But it goes to show you that, generally speaking, high number of pressures, high number of sacks. The Chiefs have been the exception.
Can you give me those teams again who have that are ahead of the Chiefs in pressures?
Vikings, Seahawks, Broncos.
Vikings, Seahawks, Broncos. So the Broncos have the highest blitz rate in the NFL.
Yes.
41.8%. The Vikings, second, 41.1%. The Chiefs, fourth, 34.2%. Interestingly enough, the Seahawks are, I believe, 16th at 25.5%. But that McDonald's scheme is that simulated pressure, moving guys all over things. So that's not super surprising. So those teams are blitzing a lot. And that, again, is why I think this speaks to the need for somebody else who can finish off a play. Because the Chiefs are getting there. They are getting to the quarterback. That's not the problem here. But you would like to get to the quarterback, make a play and force 3rd and 10, as opposed to, they were able to get away and throw it away, and it's 3rd and 4.
So that then brings us all the way back around to the original question. If the Chiefs only have one move to make, one impactful move, would a pass rusher be a bigger impact for the 2024 Chiefs than a wide receiver? And obviously it depends on the player, right? But let's say it's a player you can go get for a 3rd round pick. Let's go say it's one of those kinds of players. So maybe like an Amari Cooper, maybe, but that equivalent of a pass rusher. Would the DeAndre Hopkins equivalent of a pass rusher be a better addition for this Chiefs team than literally DeAndre Hopkins?
That is a great question. I want to give you a better answer than just, good question.
No,
but
I think it's a fascinating question. I don't know that there's a wrong answer, right? I really don't know that there is, because, like, I think you win against elite quarterbacks, which is who you see in January and February. You win against those guys with pass rush. And there is proof in the pudding that the Chiefs do not need a loaded cast of characters at wide receiver to make their offense shake and go win a Super Bowl.
So I'm looking right now, and this is not the only list that the Chiefs will be looking at. They might want a guy who has multiple years left. I'm just looking at the guys who are going to be free agents next year and who could possibly be available from a trade. I don't think the Chiefs are going to trade for Hassan Reddick.
No,
I do not believe that is going to end up happening. Man, you want Chase Young?
I think he could help.
I mean, the Saints were a mirage. Weeks 1 and 2, that was a mirage for the Saints. That offense is not going to be that good. They are trending in the wrong direction. Chase Young is still only 25. He'll be a free agent. He's not owed all that much money.
Right.
By the time you trade for him, you're going to have to pay him like $4.2 million or something. So he's going to be available, or he could potentially be available. I'm just looking around at who is, depending on how the Cardinals do, if they don't get any better, Dennis Gardeck, he's more of a stand-up guy than a hand-in-the-dirt guy, but that's at least a potential option there. Another guy who is with New Orleans, Peyton Turner, that's a reclamation project. That's a Brett Veach special right there. That's a former early draft pick, hasn't really produced in his current place. That is the classic Brett Veach move. So there are some guys out there who you could at least take a flyer on. A number of current or former Chiefs interested in getting Tano Passanio back. He's available. I'm sure they would make him available. I think, dang, that's a great question. I don't know that I have a straight answer for you. And that's the worst thing you can have as a sports talk radio host is not an answer. But I genuinely don't know, because I think you can argue it either way.
Let's turn it over to the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, or the YouTube live chat. What do you think would benefit the Chiefs most if they went out and made a big trade? A top-tier wide receiver or a top-tier pass rusher? Let us know. We're curious your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with What Is Wrong With You next on 580 Sports Talk. Two news to you here on this Wednesday afternoon, trying to take down our current weekly champion, Power Hour Wheels. 51-year-old Indiana man who got lit on some beers and some meth. Another Indiana Saturday night, and was driving a Power Wheels in the road while intoxicated. And, got in trouble for it. So that's our current weekly champion. Brendan, I'm going to let you go first today.
All right, for my story today, we are going up to the state of Washington, near Seattle, where police in Snoqualmie, is that
sure?
Snoqualmie / North Bend, their police department arrested a woman Sunday morning who was suspected of stealing shoes from two homes on Tanner Falls Way. Officers responded at 10:45, again on a Sunday, to reports of a suspicious person on Southeast North Bend Way. The caller believed the individual matched the description of someone who had taken items from porches the previous night. After locating the suspect, police used footage from a Ring doorbell camera to confirm that she had stolen a pair of Birkenstock shoes and a pair of boots from two different homes. Notably, she was still wearing the stolen boots when arrested.
Yeah, and caught red-handed or red-footed, I suppose.
The woman was charged with 2 counts of third-degree theft and is in the Issaquah jail. The stolen shoes were returned to their rightful owners. See, here's the thing. No, I'm not taking those shoes back.
Yeah, I don't want...
She's buying me new shoes.
Yes.
I'm not taking back her shoes that got her sweaty foot gunk all over them.
Yeah,
No way.
I don't want to wear used shoes.
No.
Like, I don't...
Get your toe jam out of here.
Yeah, that's an ick for me. Yeah, I feel you. For my story, we're going to Japan. Police in Kyoto have arrested a 35-year-old on suspicion of stealing 150 kilos. You think this is a drug story. It's not. He was stealing onions. Stole onions from a field owned by an agricultural corporation in Yawata in the Kyoto prefecture. The theft occurred sometime between 3 p.m. on September 19th and 7:30 a.m. the next day. The stolen Kujo green onions were worth about 105,000 yen. That'd be $701 and 82 cents. The onions had been cut off from the roots just before harvest. The suspect, Jen Kikuchi, is an onion grower himself, and he denies the allegation, saying he has no recollection of the crime. But Kikuchi emerged as a suspect after an analysis of surveillance camera footage, which is to say they saw him do it. He might not recall it, but the camera, the eye in the sky, does not lie. Apparently, there have been a series of thefts of Kujo green onions this year, mainly in Kumiyama. And last month, another suspect in his 20s was arrested and charged with theft. The green leaves of Kujo green onions contain a lot of carotene and vitamin B. And if you add them to dishes like miso soup and soba noodles, it can help prevent colds.
This is pretty much Japanese Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Stealing from the rich to give to the less rich.
Do you like onions?
Who you got today?
Stole his shoes and were wearing them when you got busted.
I think I'm on that one too.
Yeah. Does that beat Power Hour Wheels?
Honestly, I kind of think so. You can't wear the shoes to another crime, man.
Yeah, that's so gross. That's such a violation. You steal
I'm
the
going to go with that one.
You wear the shoes. I'll put these on. Yeah, we'll go with the shoe theft. That's going to be our new weekly champion here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll take a break. Tim Fitzgerald joins us next, 580 WIBW. It is always a big victory when we're joined by Tim Fitzgerald, publisher at GoPowerCat.com, for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. We do it every Wednesday at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Again, check out Fitz and his outstanding staff at GoPowerCat.com and find Fitz on Twitter at Life of Fitz. Fitz, K-State 31, Colorado 28. Have you gotten the requisite apologies from all of the, I won't even call them Colorado fans, it's mostly Coach Prime fans who got on you about your analysis of that game going in?
I think the best analysis we offered was from our Cole Carmody, who said Kansas State has a significant advantage on both sides of the line, which Colorado fans had an absolute meltdown over. And he was right. I mean, Kansas State ran the ball at will, and they stopped Colorado's run. The only reason Colorado was in that game is Shedeur Sanders is next level incredible. And he was. But K-State was good enough and dominated the possession of the ball and pushed Colorado around and found a way to win a game on the road through some tough circumstances.
Felt like a maturity win for Kansas State. That's how we defined it on Monday. The fact that they went out and were able to regroup after the big swing from, I thought going forward on the 4th and 6 in Colorado territory, up 3 was the right call. Disaster on the play, obviously. And then 2 snaps later, you're losing on the road with 3 minutes to go. To be able to put together the drive, and really more of a sprint because it was 3 plays and 84 yards, and go back and win the game, I thought that revealed a lot about the growth, the maturity of this team.
Yeah, I totally agree. Particularly Avery Johnson, who ran into some issues at BYU and didn't handle it as well as maybe you'd want. You let it kind of compound, which was an opportunity to learn, and he did. So he makes the mistake against Colorado late in the game. It's a tip ball. It was 4th and 6. You got to put the ball out there. I mean, you can't throw it away. So you got to take a chance. He took a chance. It was tipped and intercepted. And it's funny how your interpretation of what's happening in the game can switch on a moment like that. Because as I'm watching the Colorado guy return the interception, I'm like, score. Just get this over with. Just take it into the end zone. And about time I think that, he falls on his face. So, the thinking being, well, if you're going to score, do it so that K-State get the ball back. Don't let them have the ball, run down the clock, and, maybe put K-State in a horrible timing position. But Colorado scored quickly. K-State got the ball back. And honestly, then the fear became they scored too quickly. But K-State was able to come up with a big play on defense to end the game. And calling it a maturity win is a perfect way to describe it, boys. You're pretty good at your job. You should continue to do it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Someone else pretty good at his job. We knew Avery Johnson was pretty good at his job. We knew DJ.
I thought you were going to say me, but that's all right.
You are. I think that the compliment was all inclusive from Fitz. I think he meant all of us involved.
If it wasn't, I don't want to know about it, frankly.
Yeah, we could pretend it was, even if it wasn't. We knew that DJ Giddens was really good at his job, and now all of America knows how good DJ Giddens is. But Jace Brown had himself a coming out party, 6 for 121 and 2 touchdowns in the win. He is looking already as a sophomore like he might be as good a wide receiver as Kansas State has had in the Chris Kleiman era.
You're right. Boy, the kid he just flat out play. And I think he came in with Avery. They're both true sophomores. They're friends, they're roommates, and they're going to be here together at least another year. I'm going to put it this bluntly. Jace Brown was so good, I expect Colorado coaches to try to get him to transfer. He just came up huge. They ran that same play a couple plays earlier in the drive. It was there. It was just a little bit over the top, too far thrown by Avery. And this time he came back and threw it maybe a hair under, but Jace Brown stopped, backed the guy up behind him, put him in a horrible position where he ended up causing pass interference, but still made the call, made the catch, shed the tackle, and got to the end zone. Huge play. 2 young guys coming up huge on the road. And then, like I said, a depleted defense where K-State faked injuries so well that players never came back in the game. It was impressive how well they faked those injuries. And somehow they were able to hold up against Shedeur Sanders one final time. But, yeah, it was an incredible game. But you know what? DJ Giddens is going to be remembered by Shiloh Sanders for the rest of his life because that had to be humiliating. He put that guy on skates. He put him in position to pray, and he just made him look bad and silly the entire game, to the point it was so bad that even Deion Sanders, his own dad, said he stunk in that game. So DJ Giddens is really something else. And guys, I don't know about you, but we've seen him make moves, but not through the entire course of a game, be so elusive. The guys couldn't even touch him inside, 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. He was going untouched because he was just ducking everyone.
They've got the retired, not retired numbers, but the Ring of Honor up there at Folsom Field, like everybody from Deion Figures and Matt Russell to some of the more contemporary, and even going back to like Whizzer White. And I think Shiloh Sanders' jock is hanging between two of those names still to this day. That's what DJ Giddens did to him.
Yes, I totally agree. It was impressive. Had to be humbling for Shiloh and the defense, because they were pretty cocky coming in the game. It wasn't just the fans. They felt like, they came in ranking 14th in rush defense. But look, I mean, who would you play in, with rushing offenses? I know UCF was perceived as being good, but I wasn't sold on that. They were convinced they were going to shut down K-State's run game, and DJ Giddens was a nobody, and I think they've probably changed their mind now.
Tim Fitzgerald is our guest. He is the publisher of GoPowerCat.com over at the 24/7 Sports Network. You should be a VIP over at 24/7 to get all the best insight of what's going on in K-State athletics. Make sure you're following Fitz as well on Twitter at Life of Fitz. He joins us every Wednesday at this time for the Wildcat Wrap-Up on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. I know that in college, Fitz, sack yardage is counted in rushing yardage, but holy smokes, negative 29 is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado felt good about its running game after UCF. And first of all, I hate that sack yardage is counted as rushing yardage for.
I agree.
Guys like Avery and Shiloh. It's not fair. It's a pass play, and yet it goes down. It's a sack because it's a pass play, and yet it goes as rushing yardage. So that doesn't make sense. But they got after Shedeur, and he was still incredible. He got sacked 6 times, pressured countless times, ran for his life, and completed almost every ball he threw. K-State did what it needed to do. Sanders almost overcame that, but again, they did just enough to get it done.
This Kansas State team and the way they're playing right now, are they the best team in the Big 12? I know they've got a loss, but and BYU beat them, and BYU's been really good, but I think there's a lot of people around the Big 12 who maybe don't buy all the way in on Kalani Sitake's group. I think there are a lot of people who haven't bought in all the way on undefeated Iowa State yet because, let's look at 120 years of history of Iowa State football. Is K-State the best team in the league?
It might be. I haven't sold yet on BYU and Iowa State. I thought Iowa State would be good, and they are good. BYU surprised all of us, but that does look like a good team. Now, a perfect team? No. But they've got this mentality about them that they're just going to win games, and they're kind of level-headed in how they play. They haven't really put up a stinker this year, and maybe they will at some point, but I think looking at their schedule, they should be in pretty good shape to make it to Arlington if they take care of business. And of course, K-State has a shot at Iowa State at the end of the year. I think those are the 3 best teams. I know Tech has not had a loss in conference play, but I think it's going to get a little more challenging for Texas Tech starting real soon.
I know Morgantown at night is a really difficult place to play, and their fans will be hopped up on Riot Punch all night. I understand all of that. I'm not super worried about K-State coming up on Saturday, Fitz, but I do need to ask you, have you heard of a more defeated, nonsense, embarrassing quote than what Neil Brown said earlier this week, where he essentially said fans shouldn't care if they're winning. He just wants them to be at the game having fun?
It was so weird. I mean, I'm fascinated by how coaches, when they start feeling the hot seat, warm up, the weird crap they do. That was just the strangest quote. It has to derail his fan support.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 1 loss in the Big 12. I don't care what they did in the non-conference. They're 3-3, but they're still 2-1 in the Big 12. They can still make it to Arlington, and they're acting like the season's totally lost. I was a little baffled by it. I think they're going to be ready to play. That team's going to fight for Neil Brown. But I think he might have hurt attendance a little bit for Saturday night by saying that. I think a lot of people will say, Okay, I'm done with you. I'll come back next year with the new coach.
We're chatting with Tim Fitzgerald, publisher of GoPowerCat.com here on 580 Sports Talk. It's the Wildcat Wrap-Up and the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Wanted to shift over from the gridiron to the hardwood, Fitz. We're getting closer and closer to the start of the college basketball season. K-State exhibition play begins 2 weeks from yesterday. Hard to believe it is coming that quickly. The first AP poll of the year came out, the preseason basketball top 25. I know this is a brand new roster for K-State, save for a very small number of players who are returning. I understand that it's going to be a chemistry experiment with all these guys, but we know a lot of them are talented. We know who this head coach is. We know that they're going to play a tough schedule this year. Do you think K-State should have been in the top 25? Would you have voted for K-State if you were to vote in the AP top 25?
I probably would have. I mean, they brought in some, prominent pieces. And, I go back to last year. The season had started, and Jerome Taylor was still talking about finding leadership. And I think it's pretty clear they never found really strong leadership in the locker room. I feel like they already had that built. That this team has a lot of chemistry, that this group kind of came in and embraced each other. So I'm optimistic about this basketball season. But I know this conference is unbelievable in basketball. And K-State could be the 6th, 7th, 8th best team in the conference and still be worthy of being top 25. So I'm ready for it to get started. I'd kind of prefer not to get started until football's over, but that's not how this works. About the time you're totally exhausted by football, basketball hops on your back too. But basketball should be pretty fun for K-Staters, both men's and women's this year.
Does 8th in the Big 12 in the preseason poll, does that feel about right for K-State? I think that you're going to have really good teams in the top half. And like you said, even the 8th best team in the Big 12 is probably a top 25 caliber team. Did 8th feel right for you?
I might have had them a couple slots higher or one slot higher. But, yeah, I mean, there's just so many good teams and teams that are kind of loaded up. Cincinnati's in a good position this year. So when these games get going, it's going to be chaotic in the conference. And we saw a little bit of that last year. But now you bring in these former Pac-12 schools, most notably Arizona, and it's just going to get even more chaotic. It's going to be an incredibly brutal schedule. That's some incredibly just intriguing games that everyone around the nation are going to watch, because now with this new conference, when you got Houston, Kansas, Baylor, and Arizona all together, it feels like one of those tip-off weekends, that you match up the great teams. The Big 12 could do that on their own.
Last couple of questions for Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com, joining us for the Wildcat Wrap-Up here on 580 Sports Talk. K-State women, 13th in the preseason top 25 from the AP. First time they've been a preseason ranked team in 20 years. Remarkable for Jeff Mitty's squad to get that level of preseason recognition, also the preseason pick to win the conference. How realistic do you think those hopes are?
I think this team's going to be really good. And if they come together and they kind of fall into roles and Coach Mitty manages them well, I think they're going to be outstanding. And it's going to be a fun brand of basketball to watch. Ayoka Lee coming back is enormous. She is just an incredible basketball player that holds a bunch of records. And how far can she take Kansas State into the NCAA tournament? Well, let's find out. Let's hope she stays healthy this year and can get it done, because this team could really make a march through the tournament if they put it together.
Last thing, Fitz, we got about 30 seconds to bring it all back around to football. Heading to Morgantown this Saturday. How confident are you in K-State's chances of getting out of there with a win?
Well, I'm never confident going to Morgantown. I'm not. I just think they have something going on there. I thought Iowa State did a great job of managing the environment, because Morgantown can get wild at night. Don't lock up your couch, because it could end up burning in the streets. K-State's going to get a handful from this football team. And I'm a big fan of Garrett Green. I know he's a little bit unconventional, but I just think he's a great leader. So K-State's going to have to bounce back from an emotional win at Colorado, not look down the road to what will be an emotional Sunflower Showdown in Manhattan next week, and stay locked in on West Virginia, or they're going to get lost and change the whole texture of what could be a very fun football season.
Tim Fitzgerald and the staff at GoParacat.com cover it all. Become a VIP subscriber today. Find Fitz on Twitter at Life of Fitz. Catch him on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Wednesday for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. Fitz, enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, boys.
That is Tim Fitzgerald. Back after this to wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, we broached the question earlier on the show. If the choice for the Chiefs is between acquiring a top end or starting caliber, let's put it that way, wide receiver and a starting caliber pass rusher, which choice should the Chiefs make? We put it to you, the listener. Had some thoughts from the Top City Metal Supply text line. One texter from 785 says they need to get a receiver. If Worthy or Juju gets hurt, then what? They are really not deep after those guys, but no team really is equipped to handle losing your top 3 wide receivers or your top 4 wide receivers. Another text from the 785, grab MVS and Chase Young and call it a 3-peat. So I like that optimism from that listener saying, bring in a wide receiver you're familiar with, go get the top end pass rusher.
I'd be all right with Young.
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, he's not.
Like, I don't think that's outlandish, honestly.
He's not the generational player I and many others thought he would be going into that draft, but he's fine.
Yeah, he's a good player. Yeah. He's not a great player, but he's a good player.
Yeah, he's fine.
Vance,
he's Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah.
Clowney's better against the run, but there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a decent comparison. Vance in the YouTube live chat says, I think wide receiver, but the argument, I lost the comment. My apologies. Trying to find it again. I think wide receiver, but the argument can be made that a pass rusher. I just think wide receiver is a level above in the need column right now. Thanks for the comments. Appreciate you weighing in. If you're watching on the YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, jump on into that live chat. The water's fine. You can also hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. One more hour of the show today. We got our Sports Talk headlines. We're going to revisit our Big 12 quarterback rankings from the start of the year and figure which teams have gotten better or worse quarterback play than we thought. We'll look ahead to what's going on tonight. We got baseball and college football coming up. That is next. Stay with us for one more hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday. Let's get it. Final hour of this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you hanging out on 580 Sports Talk today on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online, worldwide at 580WIBW.com.
We should also note, by the way, because I know you're going to mention the YouTube there too. If you'd like to finish, you can.
And on our video stream on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News.
Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt with that much intensity.
You were pointing the pencil at me, man. I thought we had breaking news.
I guess I have a problem. Like, I need to be holding something. You ever watch Boston Legal?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was a long time ago.
Well, if anyone...
But no, I get like Rex Hudler always has to have the baseball in his hand. Is it something like that?
That's the one thing I relate to about Rex Hudler, and the one thing I like about him, because I also just always have something in my hand.
Yeah, I have had like fidget toys in the studio before. Like, no, I get it. I get where you're coming from.
I never know when I'll need to write something. Also, someone sharpened this beautifully, so if I have a note to take, I'm ready for it.
There you go.
We haven't talked about it in a couple of weeks, but if you've missed any of the show, you can always go and check out the YouTube. You can just go rewind and go back and watch any part of it. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. You can find the podcast on our website, 580WIBW.com. Just go to the podcasts tab. And you can also find it on Spotify.
That's right.
Easy to do. You just go to Spotify, whether it's the web browser, your phone, wherever, your iPad, search 580 Sports Talk. Boom, right there. I do regret to inform you, someone gave us a rating that was not 5 stars.
I'm inclined to believe that they are a hater.
We've got 3 5 stars and a 4-star.
I guarantee you I know who that 4-star is.
Is it someone who actually hates us?
No, it would be a friend of mine.
Okay.
Yeah, because I put out there in the universe that if you give us 4 stars, like Bomani Jones always says on his podcast, if you give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. And so somebody went out and decided to be a hater. They gave us 4 stars.
And intentionally knocked us down. So
guarantee you I know who it is.
If you like the show and you want to go listen to the podcast version on Spotify, if you have Spotify, head on over to the app, to the website, whatever. Leave a rating for us. Leave us 5 stars. And if it's not 5 stars, we'd like to know why. But please don't be mean.
Give us reviews. Subscribe to the page. It's very funny. So when you have a child, your Spotify algorithm gets blown to smithereens. I fortunately have not encountered this just yet. So far, when we have played music for our 4-month-old, it has been my wife's phone or my wife's Spotify account, which is connected to the upstairs Roku on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
So it's her algorithm that has gotten shattered completely. Like I look at the front page of her Spotify and it's like 7 baby music playlists and the 580 Sports Talk.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, the 580 Sports Talk podcast. So
that's very funny.
If you go and you subscribe to the 580 Sports Talk, you follow the podcast on Spotify. That's the terminology. And it is recommended. Other users also liked Rafi. Well, that's my wife.
Love that. That is tremendous. But yes, we would love for you to leave a review, leave us a 5-star review. You can write a review. You can just leave us 5 stars. Go follow us on Spotify. Go do it. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, we absolutely appreciate that. If you like to check out the show, but maybe you miss all of it live, you want to go back and catch an interview or catch a segment,
and you can listen anywhere, because we had people for years say, I like the podcast, but I have to be at my desk to listen to it.
Yeah,
now you can listen anywhere.
You can take us anywhere you want to take us on Spotify with the podcast. So appreciate those of you who have checked that out, and invite more of you to do that. Also invite you to get registered to win a trip to Europe. Giving away a 10-day trip to Europe to one lucky winner just for entering a daily winning word on our website. Don't miss your chance at the ultimate Europe getaway to Paris, London, Venice, and elsewhere. Go to 580WIBW.com. We've got the contest link at the top left corner of the page. You got to enter the keyword and register to have a chance to win. The keyword this hour, which is good until 6 o'clock, and then there'll be a whole bunch of new keywords tomorrow during your work day, so to speak. The keyword this hour is music. M-U-S-I-C. Music. Music is the keyword, as in I am listening to a lot of music for children these days. I'm listening to a lot of Raffi these days.
That's, I'm sure your son appreciates it.
Asher goes crazy for the Apples and Bananas song.
I believe it.
He gets a big kick. He likes when his daddy sings along to the I like to eat apples and bananas. He's particularly fond of oat, opals and bononos. I think that's his favorite part, judging by his reaction to it. He really thinks that he really gets a kick out of that particular line.
Were you aware that he was born in Egypt?
I was not. I'm not really up on the Raffi backstory. I just know that he's got heaters on heaters for children.
He also wrote a book, Light Web, Dark Web, 3 Reasons to Reform Social Media Before It Reforms Us.
Wow.
Dang. Man's writing scientific journals out here.
I had no idea. I'm not really familiar with his game outside of all the songs I remembered from being like 3, 4, 5 years old, and now all the songs that we're bringing back. Like, listen, I don't think Asher's ready for Banana Phone yet, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get to Banana Phone. We're gonna get to Baby Beluga. We're gonna get to those. Right now, we're on Apples and Bananas, and the Wheels on the Bus.
You got to start with the basics,
and lots of others. There's one in particular. I forget what they're called. Oh my gosh! But the male vocalist for it, I'm going to be hearing that voice in my dreams and in my nightmares. For
I believe that
many years to come. Anyway, this has been Dad Stuff with Dan here in the 5 o'clock hour of the program. We invite you to join the discussion on the show. If you can recommend some child music playlists, I'm all ears. You can text the program. The Top City Metal Supply text line is 785-272-9429. You can also interact with us in the YouTube live chat. If you are watching live on our YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk, jump on in and leave your comments, interact with your fellow listeners and your hosts. Still to come this hour, revisiting a segment we did back around the Big 12 football media days. So it was during the summer. We were drafting the Big 12 quarterbacks. And it'll be interesting to go back and look at that and see, hey, did we misevaluate some of these quarterbacks in the league, whether for good or for bad? Which teams have gotten the quarterback play they expected? Which teams have not? And has K-State gotten the quarterback play that they expected to this point this season? We'll discuss that in a little bit. But first, it is time for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We lead the 5 o'clock hour eventually with these every single day here on the program. We begin today with some NFL news. The Kansas City Chiefs have a full 53-man active roster because Clyde Edwards-Helaire has officially been activated from the non-football injury list. Now, Andy Reid has not committed to playing Clyde this Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers. So it's not known whether he'll be active, but did say that Edwards-Helaire is feeling good, and that's the most important thing. So that he, of course, has dealt with long-term effects of post-traumatic stress disorder, has, what was it called? Chronic vomiting, essentially, where he has some real health difficulties and was going through some of that during training camp, and it caused the Chiefs to place him on the non-football injury list. He is off that list now. He is eligible to play for the Chiefs starting this Sunday against the 49ers. Taking a quick look at, I'm trying to type in Chiefs.com. I typed in Che and hit enter, and now I've Googled Che Guevara. That's a very different topic of discussion.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I wanted to get to the injury report. I was trying to get to Chiefs.com. It's a very small injury report, as you'd expect, for the Chiefs coming off of the bye week. The only player who did not practice this week, Mike Dana, with the pectoral injury. Mike Dana is still dealing with that. Full participation in practice for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, along with McCole Hardman and Derek Nottie, both of whom were listed with knee and triceps injuries, respectively. Have not yet seen the 49er participation report for today, but the Chiefs have only Mike Dana missing from practice today, still dealing with a pectoral injury. What's your first headline, Brendan?
All right, first headline for me. Let's do some other news and notes from around the NFL today. The Detroit Lions, they have extended defensive tackle Aleem McNeil 4 years, $97 million total. 55 of that is guaranteed. He's a really good player. North Carolina State Wolfpack alumnus. Really good key piece of that defense. He's not Chris Jones or Dexter Lawrence in the middle, but he's a really good player, and that's a pretty fair market deal, I think, for a guy who is still just 24 years old. He was a third-round pick back in 2021. 8 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. You might say, geez, 8 tackles. Defensive tackles don't rack up tackles like that very often, unless they are the Aaron Donalds of the world. That's just not something they do a whole lot of. So, big contract for him. The New York Giants, they have lost arguably their best player for the season. This was starting to break late yesterday, but was made official earlier. Giants left tackle Andrew Thomas, done for the year, had surgery on his foot for a Liz Frank injury. It kind of popped up out of nowhere, and it turned into something he had to have surgery on immediately. That is brutal for them. He was bad as a rookie and has been one of the best left tackles in the NFL ever since. And if you haven't heard of him, that's because the rest of the team around him stinks. But Andrew Thomas, really good player. He is out for the rest of the year. Dallas Goedert, tight end of the Philadelphia Eagles, he could be out a few weeks with a hamstring injury. That is according to Eagles reporter Jeff McLean. We'll get to the Eagles here in a second. Also, the Green Bay Packers, in an attempt to finally end their miserable kicking woes, have cut kicker Braden Narvison and have signed Brandon McManus, longtime Bronco kicker. He was signed by Washington this offseason. Then he was accused of assault by I don't know if it was his wife or a girlfriend or a female partner of some sort. The Commanders immediately cut him. He was the case was thrown out, essentially. Lack of evidence was the given reason why. The Packers said that they did their due diligence and they leaned on the NFL's investigation and signed him after a tryout last night. I don't know. I'm cynical about the whole thing, but, you know, winning is winning, right? That's the NFL for you. I wanted to ask you really quickly, Dan, about the Eagles. We were sort of doing the top tier hierarchy of the NFC earlier. Where would you put the Eagles?
I have a lot of trouble taking them very seriously because I think Nick Sirianni is a clown. I don't think he's a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
Their wins haven't been super convincing. Like, for me, I would probably put them, like, I think they are a playoff team at best. I do not take them seriously as a championship contender.
I agree with that. I think that's a very good summation of what the Eagles are. I was not a believer in Jalen Hurts coming out of college. I was not. I thought he wasn't a good enough passer at Alabama. He obviously improved at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley, but I thought Lincoln Riley had to do a bunch of Mickey Mouse stuff with him to get that out of him. I didn't believe in him his first couple years. Then the year they went to the Super Bowl, he looked great. He had one of the, I would say probably the second best losing performance in a Super Bowl ever, only behind Tom Brady. Funny enough, in a game that Brady lost to the Eagles in, that was Super Bowl 51, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was 52. I don't remember. Whatever year it was that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I don't think Jalen Hurts is very good. Like, I'm willing to brave the wrath of at least some Philadelphia fans. Dude, he can't read the field. Like, they have to run Mickey Mouse stuff with him, because when they try to run drop back stuff like Kellen Moore wants to run, he can't do it. Like, you've got to do that really college heavy RPO stuff that, I mean, it's fine. It works, but it's the kind of thing that there's a cap on. There is a ceiling on that. I don't know that we'll ever see that playoff run version of Hurts ever again from that was the 22 season. I'm not a believer. I think the problems start there. I think that their wide receiver room is really good, but I also think A.J. Brown is probably at the top of the list of guys who I would think of if you said things will go wrong. What player in the NFL would complain about their team first if that happened to them? I would say A.J. Brown, probably.
Yes.
And look, I get it. He's a top 5 receiver in the league right now. He's awesome. I think their defense sucks. I think their coaching sucks. And I think Nick Sirianni, again, is a tool. So, no, I think 6th seed in a first-round exit would be the peak of what they can do this year.
I guess my question about them is, have they played well? Have they played a good game?
No, they have not.
They're 5 weeks in. I don't think they played well in any of them. Like, the game against Green Bay was you almost have to throw it out. It was week 1. It was in Brazil. It was on a slip and slide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you do with that game. They lost to Atlanta. They beat New Orleans 15-12.
In a game they had no business winning.
They got dump trucked by the Buccaneers on the road, and then they beat the Browns by 4.
And looked awful doing it.
Yes, it was a miserable 4-point win. And Nick Sirianni is doing the Hulk Hogan, I can't hear you taunt to his own fans after the game.
He's a bum.
He is.
We make fun of the big Dom thing with the Eagles, and it is worth making fun of because it's very stupid that these are grown adults. You don't need a babysitter.
Right.
But the fact that they have to keep giving him more responsibility and his whole job is pretty much keep Nick Sirianni from throwing tantrums at his own players or other teams, you've got to fire this dude.
Yeah, I don't, short of going to the conference championship game, and I do not think Philadelphia has the juice for that. Nick Sirianni's not going to be their coach next year.
I don't think so.
He doesn't have the temperament for it. Especially in that city with this organization. He doesn't have the temperament for this. I think that much is very obvious. Next headline, as we continue our 580 Sports Talk headlines. You have seen, no doubt, the images of devastation from Hurricane Milton, which ripped through the Tampa Bay area and a wide swath of the state of Florida last week. And the lasting image from the hurricane has been the damage done to the roof of Tropicana Field, the home of the Tampa Bay Rays. It's an old fabric roof, essentially, and it was all but taken completely off the top of the Rays indoor stadium. Well, it is now being reported that the repairs that need doing, and not just to the roof, but also the interior of the stadium, which once the roof came off, took a fair bit of wind and other damage, will take so much time as to not make Tropicana Field able to host the Major League Baseball season, at least as it begins on March 27th. So there is legitimately a question now about where the Rays are going to play in 2025. Now, there are some minor league facilities, spring training facilities in the area that would make a certain amount of sense for the Rays to play in. Steinbrenner Field is in Tampa. It's where the Yankees play their spring training games.
Man, the Rays would never hear the end of that.
You've got Al Lang Stadium in St. Petersburg, some other ballparks in the area. TD Ballpark in Dunedin was actually used by the Blue Jays as their home park for part of 2021 before they could go back to Canada during some of the more stringent COVID restrictions. So that park has hosted Major League Baseball before. Baycare Ballpark in Clearwater, which I've been to, that's the Phillies spring training site. That's a very nice park. Obviously, you're not dealing with the same seating capacity as you're dealing with for the Rays.
I don't think that will be a problem.
Yeah, historically, that has been a thing. The Rays don't draw super great. That is true. The thought I have, though, if it's going to be a season, which I don't know that that's out of the question, I would certainly hope that the Rays can return and play their home games at their home stadium, but that's obviously not priority number one when it comes to repairing the damage that Hurricane Milton did to the greater Tampa Bay area. I wonder if this ends up being an audition for a city like Nashville or Charlotte with a AAA ballpark to maybe host some big league games for a few months. Those are two cities that have not been shy in expressing desire about being a candidate for expansion. And I do think I think before the end of the decade, there will be a concrete plan for expanding Major League Baseball to 32 teams. And I might be dragging my feet on that prediction. It might come sooner than the end of the 2020s. But those are two cities that really want Major League Baseball. And I think this could be an audition for one of them for a couple of months. I think that they're not, and people joke, well, put them in Oakland. Nobody's playing in Oakland. You can't have a team in the Eastern Division playing in Oakland. Logistically, it's a nightmare. They're going to.
You have to realign everything.
Yeah, they're gonna play their home games for a month, 2 months, a season. They're gonna stay out on the East Coast. I feel like it's going to be one of those two cities. I really do. I don't think it's going to be a spring training site.
No, I think that's fair. I mean,
it's a cynical thing to do, frankly, to take the team out of Tampa if indeed Steinbrenner Field or Al Lang Stadium are viable.
There is a precedence for this before, not in Major League Baseball, but the
New Orleans, Oklahoma City Pelicans.
Yeah.
Or
what were they at
they
the
were
time?
They were
the Hornets.
They're the Hornets. Yeah.
They were the Hornets at the time. Yeah. After Katrina, they played a year in Oklahoma City.
Nooch. They were Nooch. The New Orleans, Oklahoma City Hornets.
And
Nooch.
then it was, oh, shoot. Oklahoma City supported this team, and there is money that we can, there's a desire to have a team here.
Yeah.
There you go. I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, ended up being a dress rehearsal for that city, and I could see Major League Baseball doing the same.
Interesting that you note that, Dan, because my final headline for today takes us to a report from Britt Giroldi of The Athletic, national MLB writer, that White Sox owner Jerry Reinsdorf is open to selling the club. This has never once come up during his active time owning the team. It has been known, and she puts this in the story, that he has told his heirs, his family, his kids, that when he dies, sell the White Sox, keep the Bulls. Which, can you sell the Bulls too? Please? Please, Michael Reinsdorf? Anyway, this is the first time it has been now publicly known that he is considering selling the White Sox as well. He's 88 years old. He is the oldest owner in Major League Baseball. He is also not just considering selling it, Dan, but according to this report, he is in active discussions with a group known as 34 Smoke that is headed up publicly by former Major Leaguer and World Series champion Dave Stewart. So the White Sox have been trying to get a new stadium. Reinsdorf's a penny pincher. We know about the White Sox. Here's the thing about Dave Stewart. He has been part of a group that has been trying to get a baseball team, among other sports leagues like the NWSL, into Nashville, Tennessee for years.
Yep, he's worked with a group that is trying to get an expansion team there. He's also working with a group trying to get a National Women's Soccer League team in Nashville. So he is very heavily involved in the sports scene in that city in particular.
There was chatter about maybe Reinsdorf would move the team to Nashville if he didn't get clearance for a new stadium in Chicago. But just selling the team and having them get moved, I tell you what, man, I know the White Sox have a unique fan base. There are some diehards there, and it's going to feel really weird if you take that team. They've been around for 124 years.
Yeah, Chicago's been a two-team town forever, literally.
The entirety of the 20th century bar 1 year.
And the thought of moving the White Sox out of Chicago is not entirely new. In fact, before expansion, we were just talking about the Rays. Before that, there was a lot of smoke around the idea, no pun intended, given we're talking about Dave Stewart here. A lot of smoke in the late 80s before the new Comiskey Park got built, that if that didn't happen, the White Sox were going to move to St. Petersburg, Florida. They were going to move to Florida. And obviously, the new Comiskey did get built, and the team stayed in Chicago, and now it's happening again. It's Jerry Reinsdorf saying, hey, I would like public money for a new stadium here.
I hate to be morbid, and I know we have to get to a break here. Jerry Reinsdorf's 88 years old, and he's worth over $2 billion. What could you possibly want to sell for? Like, Jerry, you've already got more money than you know what to do with, and age, there's a finite amount of years you have left. And again, I don't mean to be morbid, not wishing death upon the man, but like, what more are you going to do with $1.3 billion? Seriously.
Yeah.
And because the line is, well, that's better than having not $1.3 billion. What's he going to do with it?
You take it to the grave with you. You know what that makes you? Still dead.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, I don't understand. This seems like an extreme choice because the city of Chicago won't give him an entire new stadium for free. But I never thought I'd see the day. I thought he would die owning the team.
They built new Comiskey opened in 91, right? We had Vance asking the YouTube comments.
I believe 91? That is correct.
Yeah, I think it was 91 because it was open. I know it was open for 93 when they won the East. or I guess it would have been the AL West at the time, and they beat Toronto, unless Toronto was in the West. And the last ALCS before the expanded playoffs was White Sox and Blue Jays. And I know the new Comiskey was open for that, because that's where Michael Jordan showed up in the denim on denim and threw out the first pitch.
Hell yeah,
right before he retired from basketball.
It opened as Comiskey Park on April 18th, 1991.
There you go.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's not official, but it's not just he's thinking about it. It is, no, he's having discussions as we speak.
Which, boy, you talk about a catch-22 for White Sox fans. Yes, Reinsdorf selling. Wait, who's he talking to?
Also, sell the Bulls. Free me.
We're going to take a break, come back, talk about Big 12 quarterbacks next on 580 Sports Talk. .535 on 580 Sports Talk. Blue Oyster Cult's second best song.
What are you putting number one?
I'm Burning for You.
Yeah, that fact. Correct.
Song goes absolutely crazy.
Burning for You, Godzilla. Obviously, Don't Fear the Reaper's great.
Yeah.
Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll.
Sure.
Classic. My dad owns at least one Blue Oyster Cult album. I think there might be multiple in their basement.
Big BOC guy. Are they albums?
Like, oh yeah. Nice. The basement at the house I grew up in, my parents' house, is where that's the hangout room. That's the family room. That's where it's carpeted, and that's where you have snacks and watch football and all that. Big TV down there, all that. And it's on this big entertainment center, and in the middle cabinet is just their record collection. And it's a lot of Jimmy Buffett, Michael Jackson, some Blue Oyster Cult, just very people who were alive in the 80s.
So my parents, I young parents, my dad was 23 when I was born. My mom was 21. So they had like cassette tapes.
Oh,
and I remember discovering their cassette tapes when I was younger, and you wouldn't be able to guess. Like there's some stuff in there that like I still like enjoy. Like that was my first exposure to Peter Gabriel, In Excess. Great stuff. My dad was a big Teddy Pendergrass, Luther Vandross, Jody Watley, Tony Braxton, Janet Jackson, a lot of that in his collection, which also good, but
yes,
not like maybe what you'd expect if you like saw my dad.
Yeah.
So
no, it's a strong collection. Do you own any albums, any LPs?
No, I do not. I'm not, a vinyl collector. Most of the music I listen to anymore is just digital. So
I own a couple dozen of them. I mean, it's mostly albums that I own already in digital or CD form, but there's something crisp about the vinyl sound.
Yes,
that you really can't match anywhere else.
The audio files are right.
Yeah,
like you can detect the difference. It's just that is not something I have moved towards collecting, and I think my hobbyist days are at least on pause for a very long time. Now my current hobby is being a dad. Like that's
no, I get that.
that's my current hobby. Wanted to get to this. We re-tiered the Big 12 teams yesterday. And as you look up and down the standings in the Big 12 through 3 conference games, most of the missed evaluations, it feels like, essentially come down to, are they getting better quarterback play or worse quarterback play than we thought they were going to get? Like BYU and Arizona State are Exhibit A, right? Arizona State, Sam Leavitt, redshirt freshman, has played well. Unfortunately, he's hurt. It's going to be Jeff Sims for them against Cincinnati. Yikes.
Man. Poor ASU.
Yikes. Cam Scadaboo is going to carry it 45 times.
See, I don't know that he's going to get the ball actually handed to him without it being bounced off the turf first 45 times. Jeff Sims, by all accounts, nice guy.
Yeah.
Boy, he's not a good quarterback.
Yeah, that is the question. Like, can they make the quarterback running back exchange on those handoffs? Jake Ratzlaff has been much better than we thought for BYU. By the way, I don't know if you were watching Big Noon Kickoff. They did a story on Ratzlaff.
Mm-hmm.
They are selling shirts that say the BY Jew, and they've got the Star of David and Ratzlaff in the middle of it.
That's incredible.
It really is funny.
One of 3 Jewish students at BYU.
Yeah, not a bit. Like that's real.
No, he's very devout. Like, I mean, I think it's awesome that he's so proud of it and open about it. Like, hey, I'm in this place that is not like what I am used to or what I believe in, but they are welcoming to me and I welcome them. And he's got to connect. I didn't see this on Big Noon, but I know he is in a group chat and like hangs out with the 2 other Jewish students at BYU. They're all friends.
I would imagine. I go to Temple together.
Well, yeah, I mean, I imagine so. Like there's things that all people are into or can relate to, but there's probably some things that, hey, literally no one else here knows what I am going through. I'm glad I have 2 other people who can help me.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. Honestly, I know I'm laughing, but I think it's really cool.
So obviously when you look at those 2 teams, that's the first thing you look at is the improving of the quarterback play there. Flip side, teams that maybe haven't gotten the level of quarterback play, Utah, certainly one of those teams. UCF, I thought KJ Jefferson was going to thrive in a Gus Malzahn offense, and now he's been benched. TCU has not been maybe as good as maybe some thought because Josh Hoover just turns the ball over like crazy. Very prolific, but also turns the ball over like crazy. KU did not get the Jalen Daniels they expected to get for the better part of the first half of this season. Remember when we did our Big 12 quarterback draft? We did this back on June 25th. And the 3 of us, Spencer included, Spencer is with us today. He'll be back tomorrow. We drafted the quarterbacks. We each drafted 4 quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. So the schools with a quarterback that we did not draft were Arizona State, BYU, Cincinnati, and Brendan Sorsby has played well.
Yeah.
The big reason why they're 4-2. And the other school for which we did not draft a quarterback was, man, I got to look at the list.
It wouldn't have been Baylor.
No, it was Oklahoma State. It was Oklahoma State. Nobody drafted Alan Bowman.
That's right. Yes, that was very funny.
We
were right about that one.
Yes, we were on the nose about Alan Bowman. Not good, just old. But among the quarterbacks who did get drafted, Cam Rising, who went to you, number 2 overall, who is not going to play the rest of this season. KJ Jefferson, I took him 7th overall. He has been benched. Donovan Smith, you took him number 8, Brendan.
Yeah.
He has been benched in Houston. Looks like they moved on to Zion. Is it Zion or Zion?
It's Zion, yeah.
Is it Zion Christ? Spencer took DeQuan Finn 10th. I thought he was going to thrive at BYU. He has been benched.
Baylor. But yes,
Baylor.
I thought so too.
Yeah. So, some missed evaluations there. By the way, the quarterbacks we ended up with, in retrospect, I had the first pick. So I picked 1st, 6th, 7th, and 12th. I ended up with Noah Fafita, Rocco Beck, KJ Jefferson, and Josh Hoover. That's a journey.
That top 2 is really good, though.
You ended up with Cam Rising, Avery Johnson, Donovan Smith, and Baron Morton. And Spencer ended up with Shadur Sanders, Jalen Daniels, Garrett Green, and DeQuan Finn. I have no idea who won.
I kind of think I lost, but I mean, I'm happy I got Avery. That was a good win.
Yeah. Spencer won, I think. If Jalen Daniels continues on an upward trajectory, he won this pretty clearly with Sanders and Green in addition.
Yeah, I mean, Fafita and Becht is good. I'm a big Becht fan.
He's played well.
Yeah, I slant toward him.
So,
that was rough.
Yeah.
That's a lot of quarterbacks who've gotten benched, too.
Yeah, no kidding. Not real fun to look back at. And just 6 weeks into the season, too, guys getting benched. Speaking of Avery Johnson, I think this is an interesting question. Has he been the player that you expected him to be through 6 games for Kansas State? Because I think the answer to that is yes and no. And I know that's a cop-out. But the reason the answer is yes and no doesn't have much to do with Avery Johnson. I expected that Avery would have some peaks and valleys as a passer. Like, I did not think he was going to be fully formed as a passer immediately. We've seen some good. We've seen some not so good. He's thrown, I think it's 4 interceptions now this year, and some of them have not been very good. But where I expected he'd make the most impact was as a runner of the football. And I stand by this. On a team with DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards, I think Avery Johnson is the best runner of the football on that team. And he doesn't get to do it.
Yeah, that's weird.
Like, I really thought we'd see more of the quarterback run game, and maybe that's a second half of the season thing. Maybe that's something that they're still really hesitant to do for concern about injury or whatever reason. But I still don't think we've seen the best of Avery Johnson, because I don't think we've seen the best of him on the ground. And when he becomes more of a running threat, whenever that happens, if it does, I think that takes the Kansas State offense up a whole other level. So that's my answer about Avery Johnson. Has he been as good as I expected? Yes and no. He's been about what I expected as a passer. He has not been what I expected as a runner in terms of the volume, but in terms of like what he's done when he has run the ball, yeah, he's awesome. So that's kind of my cop-out answer there.
Yeah, I would say for me, I think he's been about what I expected. I was the one who went into the year trying to temper expectations a little bit, because he's got all the potential in the world as a thrower, as a runner, as a leader of this team. And I was trying to temper, hey, look, freshman quarterbacks don't always thrive like that. And he's got a new offensive coordinator. Let's not forget about that as well. Young guy, new play caller in Matt Wells. That might take some getting used to. They've got to find their footing together. And I think he's been as good, if not even slightly better than I thought he could be this year. And I don't want to hold some of those play calling things against him, unless there is something he is doing in practice that makes K-State feel like he can't use his legs more or have some of those design things. I can't imagine that would be the case. Maybe if K-State doesn't run him a lot against West Virginia, maybe we ask Fitz about that next week. Like, are we missing something in practice that he drops the ball all the time and they don't trust him to run? I don't know.
They don't even do a lot of the quarterback power stuff. Like, remember when he rushed for 5 touchdowns against Texas Tech?
That's all he did.
Like 3 or 4 were designed runs. They ran on 3rd and 10 quarterback power, and it went for a touchdown against Texas Tech last year.
And I can understand being cautious because of his size. In fact, I looked it up. This roster, I'm not trying to take a shot at anyone at K-State. This is a lie. There is no chance Avery Johnson weighs more than I do. By 20 damn pounds. There is no chance.
Maybe with pads on. Maybe it's one of those things you measure your height with your sneakers on. And
yeah, if he's got a cinder block in his pocket, maybe.
Or
no way is
maybe
he
he's just glad to
192
see you.
pounds. I know he is also not. What do they have him? He's also not 6'2". Come on. Guys, come on.
We're going to take a break. We'll come back with a little playoff roundup and a look ahead to what's on tap tonight in the sports world at 580 Sports Talk. Winding down on this edition of 580 Sports Talk, looking ahead to the action in sports tonight. Let's do a playoff roundup, shall we?
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
Last night, the New York Yankees took a 2-0 lead in the best-of-7 American League Championship Series with a 6-3 victory. Aaron Judge hit his first home run of the postseason. The Guardians used all but two of their relief pitchers in this game. This series is over.
Yeah, I agree.
The Guardians,
I mean, if Judge is heating up, what are you going to do?
Well, it's more than that. It's the Guardians don't have the arms to do this. No. Like, they can't get an inning and a third from their best starting pitcher. And look, Tanner Bybee didn't have it. And I think him being pulled in that spot was more about him not having it than about the idea that we're going to use all our relief pitchers tonight, but this is not sustainable in the best of 7 series. It is simply not. You can win a game or two. You can go a long way. You can go the American League Championship Series on the back of a really good bullpen, even if you don't have a great pitching rotation. But when you get to October, the problem that you run into is you start seeing the same guys in every game. They get less effective the more you're exposed to them, right? So, like, Cade Smith is having an unbelievable postseason, but when the Yankees get to see him a third, fourth, fifth time, they're going to be on him. And that goes for any reliever. Like, there are exceptions to every rule. Like, it didn't matter that Mariano Rivera had one pitch and pitched in every meaningful game for the Yankees. You still couldn't do anything with Mariano Rivera. He's in the Hall of Fame. Cade Smith is probably not Mariano Rivera.
Probably not.
So it's early in his career. You never know. Luke Weaver finally gave up a 9th inning home run to Jose Ramirez.
More like Puke Weaver.
Yeah, no kidding. But
said that a few times when he was in Kansas City.
Yeah, more than a few. But yeah, I don't think the Guardians can win this series. I want them to very much. I do not think they can. Not with the way that their pitching is shaking out. Game 3 of the National League Championship Series tonight. Walker Buehler on the mound for the Dodgers. Luis Severino for the Mets as the scene shifts to Citi Field. Who you like tonight?
I will go with the Dodgers. I'm going to go with the Dodgers. No, well, yeah, Dodgers.
I just think they've got the pitching edge. I don't think Walker Buehler is very good, and it's going to make the Dodgers have to go to their bullpen early. I think the Dodgers are in the same spot that the Guardians are in right now, where they're just going to have to burn their bullpen and hope they can make it shake 4 times in 7, or now 3 times in 5, essentially, as the series is tied at 1. But I don't see it happening. There's college football tonight?
There is college football tonight. There's some Conference USA action, in fact. We've got Western Kentucky at Sam Houston State and FIU at UTEP. Florida International favored by 6.5 in that game. Sam Houston State at home in their game favored by 2. Give me Sam Houston State and give me FIU. Yeah, give me the 2 favorites in these games. UTEP's terrible.
Yeah, UTEP's bad, but they're home. I'll take the points. I'll take the points with the Miners, 6.5.
You see Middle Tennessee beat Kennesaw State 14-5 yesterday?
I did. Fabulous football. We got a final word to get to wrap up 580 Sports Talk next. Time for the final word on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, what you got?
Final word for me today is that, wow, we had absolutely no way to grasp what Big 12 quarterback play was going to look like this year.
No.
And I don't know who's winning our draft, but I clearly am losing.
Yeah, been an unpredictable kind of topsy-turvy year. There are a lot of people that said this college football season reminds them of 2007 with the level of chaos we've experienced, and I think they might be on to something there. Final word for me, I think it's an interesting thought experiment to determine whether or not the Chiefs would benefit more from a defensive stalwart to add to their roster, particularly on the defensive line, than they would benefit from adding a top-tier wide receiver. I think they are probably more likely to add a defensive end or edge rusher from another organization than they are to add a wide receiver that doesn't have much background in their organization before. I think that is for certain. We're going to go on a little break. Until tomorrow, we're back from 3 to 6. The whole gang will be here. Hope you'll join us. For Brendan, I'm Dan. See ya.